Okay, hello, hello. My name is Stephanie Dawn, and I'm super excited to be interviewing a colleague of mine, a friend, and really someone that I like to call a birth star in our in our ever evolving world here. She has been someone that I have been long respected and admired for many years from afar. We spent multiple years attempting to actually meet in person when I would come to New York and do my workshops and work with my clients. And finally, we met in California just a couple months ago. So I want to introduce her, but in a moment. But what I want to say first is that, as I grow here and become, you know, a woman maturing, a mature woman, I've learned a lot in terms of what it means to live in the old paradigm and what it means to create a new paradigm. And for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I've talked a lot about the new paradigm of birth. Well, Sheila and her work is absolutely connected to this new paradigm. And the piece that she holds that I so love and that I am so excited to get into it with her today is around pleasure, how we can move forward in our lives from a place of pleasure. So I don't know about you, but that's a new concept for me. I was raised by a mother who worked really, really hard in what I would term the old paradigm. Back in the 80s, she had those full-on masculine suits, and and she raised us. She raised us in that genre, in that way. And so, to me, this is absolutely a conversation that is of our time. And so, I'm so excited to welcome you, Sheila Kamarhe. She is, as I've mentioned, she is really a leader in the world of what it means to birth a baby with pleasure, and now she's got this new work that we're going to be talking about. So hello and good morning. She's on the East Coast.
Hi, Stephanie. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm so honored by your words, and I'm so honored by your invitation to share here with you.
Well, as you know, I've been a longtime fan, and this has been a conversation that was present for me even with my own births with Jasper and Zephyr, how to bring back before it was, really a thing, back before Deborah Pascali-Bonaro's film had come out or book had come out, Orgasmic Birth. I had found an article by Ingrid Bauer, a mom on one of my networks, my Yahoo groups, had sent it to me via snail mail. Like how old is that, right? And I read that article. It was from Midwifery Today, apparently, and I was really inspired to bring pleasure into my own birth. So I didn't have the orgasmic birth with my first son, Jasper, and I went on to energize creating a pleasurable birth with my second son, Zephyr, in a hospital setting. And while I can't say I had an orgasmic birth, I can say that I did have a pleasurable birth experience. And it changed everything for me and changed my work, my sacred birth work, in terms of how I taught back in the day, with my sacred birth mentor program. And so, I was skipping down the hall after giving birth to Zephyr. They couldn't believe I just given birth, So to me, one of the things that I like to refer to is goes back to Deborah's book and Elizabeth's book around what it means to have a pleasurable birth. If we could just talk about that for a moment, and then we'll segue into this new work that you're creating. So what I got from that book when it finally came out was that it's really not about having an orgasm when you give birth. Right. That would be amazing. And we can certainly, create the environment for that to happen. But it was more about having dominion over my body, over my experience, having my wishes respected, and feeling like I was safe and connected to everyone in the room, which is definitely the case for my second birth. with Zephyr in a hospital setting, which was fascinating. That I was really proud of myself that I was able to do that. So yeah, will you talk about the work that has gotten you to this moment here?
Yeah, and thank you for highlighting that first, because I think there's a lot of like misconceptions and around this idea of what does it mean to have a pleasurable birth. So I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about that. I have a lot of women that'll come to me and say like, where should I give birth? Who should I hire? Like, what's the right way to birth? And the thing that I always say is there is no right way to birth. Right? It's not about you need to have a home birth or a birthing center or doula or midwife. Like there are definitely things that will support you and your process better. But the thing that women need to know is there's no right way to birth. There's the right way for you. So for some women, a home birth is actually dangerous because they are so full of fear. Whereas for some women, a home birth is like, oh, amazing, because they can relax and open, and that's the space where they feel safest. So that's the first thing I want to say, is that there's no right way to birth. And when you were talking about new paradigm versus old paradigm and all of that, the thing that kept coming to my mind is, in the old paradigm, we are taught that like pleasure is the reward for a job well done, right? So even this idea of like having an orgasmic birth holds a little bit of that energy, because it's like, if I do a good job, I will get the orgasm at the end, right? And we all know that birth is like life. And, one thing I say to every woman that I work with is I can't guarantee you an outcome. It's like nobody can get guaranteed an outcome in life, right? There's an element of co-creation with the divine. There's an element of co-creation with your child. So there's no way to guarantee that outcome. However, when you switch paradigms and instead of looking at pleasure as like the reward for a job well done, and recognize pleasure as an integral part of the process, and start to bring that into your birth preparation, bring that into the birthing room, bring that into your birth support, I can guarantee that I will elevate your experience no matter what. Right. So that's really the shift. And when I talk about ecstatic birth and bringing pleasure into birth, there's that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about using pleasure consciously as a tool. I believe that pleasure is the most holistic birthing tool there is, because of all the like yummy hormones that it stimulates in your body. They just happen to be the same hormones that support the flow of your labor. So again, pleasure is not like a reward or an aside or a bonus for a job well done. But when you consciously, actively tap into pleasure, whether that's like giving yourself pleasure from the outside or learning how to connect to that flow of pleasure that's always available within yourself, you are supporting the flow of your labor and delivery. So that's really been like the heart of my work for the past 10 years, is really spreading that message. And a lot of times women, like I said, there's a lot of misinterpretation. And the last thing I want to do is put out there that like everyone should be having a certain type of birth, or everyone should be having an orgasm when they give birth, because that's creating a standard outside of ourselves. And that's not the point. The point is to bring it back to you, bring it back to your truth, bring it back to your body, birth the way that feels right to you, birth the way that feels pleasurable to you. And the key to all of that is the body, is our connection to our body and our inner wisdom and the sensations within. So that's been the heart of my work with both my expectant moms and, I work with birth practitioners as well to support them in bringing this work to their clients. It's really all about the body and finding your connection to your truth and finding your connection to your pleasure.
See, this is such an important conversation, in my opinion. And full disclosure, everyone, Sheila is my client. And we've been working together for a while now, over a year. And, one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you, Sheila, is because I believe that this message that you carry is so important to be amplified.
Thank you.
That more women need to hear that this is possible in birth and in life. Birth was the entry point for you to really like deepen this. It's the entry point for me as well. And it's such a portal of transformation, birth, right? Yeah. So it's such an important conversation. And I'm so thrilled to have you here with me today, because it's like, I could talk about this all day.
For sure.
It feels good. It's pleasurable. It feels good in the body. It feels good to be, you know, lifting the lid, lifting the roof off of the world that I know that you and I are all too aware that women endure birth, that women are damaged by birth, that women have all manner of interventions that occur for them in birth that are really an absolute tragedy, in my opinion. So this is like, we're sort of, you know, we're pulling back the veil here and we're going, hey, everybody, like another world is possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible in birth and it's possible in life.
Right. I mean, a lot of what's happening there, and it's true, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of suffering, there's a lot of trauma that happens in birth. And there's so many reasons from that, from like the personal, a woman being disconnected from her body or having a history of some kind of abuse, to the political and the medical and the society. Like there are just so many reasons for what's happening right now. But underneath a lot of that is just fear. It's fear. It's this fear of trying to control something that is scary and uncontrollable, and managing that and over managing that to the point where the truth is lost, right? The truth about what feels good to the woman, her own personal truth is lost, and also the truth about what the process is. The process is a sexual process. And most of the time when I say that, when I say birth is a sexual act, people will kind of go, like, you know, that's a very profane, provocative statement, because
I wonder because, you know, I've been sort of in this realm of exploring sexuality and sensuality in the US versus in Europe. So I'm just curious to know, you know, if you were in a room in Holland, let's say, and you were sharing this work, do you think you'd have the same reaction?
I think so, but not to the same extent. So I work with women all around the world, and I have found that there are certain countries that are more receptive to the idea, and there are certain countries that aren't. So we definitely in the US have, I mean, everyone has to a certain extent distortions around sexuality. But I do think it's a global thing. You know, in Holland, they might be more receptive. There are places where their birthing systems are more understanding of this underlying sexual process, as opposed to trying to manage it as a medical emergency. But you know, even you see in countries like South Africa or Brazil that have upwards of a 75% C-section rate. I mean, it's a global issue. It is a global issue.
And do you think that that's based on the fact that the Western medical model of care is practiced everywhere?
I mean, to an extent.
Or is it more about just the repression of women?
I was gonna say, I can't blame it all on the Western medical model of care. I think there's a lot going on. I think, you know, to a certain extent, what we're talking about is the honoring of the feminine, right? And the honoring of the feminine is something that or the dishonoring of the feminine is something that goes back to the creation story that most of society has adopted. Whatever religion you're at, that creation story of Adam and Eve is the dominant story of creation, right? And that story basically tells us that the feminine is not to be trusted, right? Eve takes a bite of that apple, and we are pushed out of paradise. The fall of man is because of woman. It's because of her desire. It's because of her weakness. So this is so big. It's hard to just say, oh, it's because of those, you know, Western doctors. And it's a really big thing. And what we're seeing now, which is so exciting, is the rise of the divine feminine coming through in so many different ways, through so many different people. And it's an amazing thing to watch. And I think that the work that we're doing is really a part of that.
Yeah. What just struck in my mind is, as I heard you talking a moment ago, is the term inherent misogyny. You know, that I feel is really the essence of what it is that you just stated there is, you know, the woman hating, woman shaming, and it's unconscious for the most part. You know, we're not aware of it, but we're living in it every day.
Yeah, it's internalized, and then we are all complicit in it, because until we can see it, like there's so many chains that govern how we function that are that it's very hard we peel them away one at a time. But I mean, I'm still finding that within myself.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So yeah, breaking the chains that bind us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Liberation. That's what I think of when I think of your work, is liberation, liberation
Ooh.
for women to really birth in a way that really, really, really works for them and feels good.
Well, that's what's really exciting about this step that you're helping me, you're midwifing me through, you're dueling me through, is taking this work to the next level of seeing, okay, so this birthing process of which pleasure is an integral part is actually the process of creation, right? And the process of creation, whether that's like a physical baby, that you're gestating in your body, or a desire, a dream, a creative project, a book, a business, a rebirth of yourself. The processes mirror each other. We can learn so much by looking at the physical process of birth and looking at the stages and what are those pitfalls all along the way. And bringing that into our metaphorical journeys and saying, you know what, it's not no pain, no gain. No, the vacation is not my reward for a job well done, though it very well could be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the vacation can actually support my process, right? Pleasure can actually support my process. And depending on where I am along the way, to be able to identify like those pitfalls, those chains, those invisible chains, and start to take them off and start to rewire and consciously integrate pleasure into your process. It's a really powerful and revolutionary act.
I love it. I just love it. So over the past year, you've been birthing some new work, and it's based on your previous work. So will you talk a little bit about how it is, the evolution really of your work? Because it's growing, right?
Yeah, so it's been really fun. I've been invited into Mama Gina's School of Womanly Arts for the past 5 years as a guest teacher. And that's the one forum where I share my work, where, I'm not really speaking to a group of expectant moms or a group of birth practitioners. I'm speaking to a group of women, who are really actively pursuing dreams and desires, or really actively rebirthing themselves. And to be honest, at first I was like a little bit perplexed because I know the value of what I do, but I was always a little bit like, are they really going to receive what I have to share about birth in a way that's meaningful to them? And what I would find was, in addition to women coming up and saying, thank you, you just gave voice to the experience that I had birthing my child 20 years ago, that I was ashamed to share about. So there was a lot of that, because 20 years ago, if you were to say that you enjoyed or even had an orgasm birthing your baby, there's a lot of shame associated with that. Like, oh my God, did I do something wrong? You're going severely counterculture. So there was a lot of that. But there was this other voice that kept coming forward that said, oh, I got so much from your talk. I've never had a kid and I never will. But that was so meaningful to me. And I learned so much, and I want to know, how can I have more of that? How can I have more of this type of experience where, I'm not birthing a baby, but I'm birthing, a book. I'm birthing, I want to learn more. And so that's really where that's the seed of this current body of work. The work is the same. It's not any different. So, when I work with my expectant moms, the first thing I do is bring them home to their bodies. That is the most important thing. Like, let's deepen your connection with your body and the sensations within, because sensation is the language of the body, and it's also your inner wisdom. The body integrates wisdom on so many different levels. So we come home to the body and sensation and move from that place, like learn to really feel into what feels good as opposed to what makes sense, right? So when you're navigating your options, instead of thinking, okay, which option makes the most sense, which option feels better? So whether you're birthing a baby and you're trying to figure out, oh, should I birth in a hospital or in a birthing center, or should I birth with this doula or that OB, like taking it out of the head and into the body. And the same thing with whatever it is that you're navigating in your life. So that's one thing. And then the next piece of my work is really integrating pleasure in those sticky spots, right? So a sticky spot in the physical birthing world would be a contraction. And we don't like contractions, right? We try to rename them, we try to avoid them, we try to numb them. And that's true metaphorically as well. When we hit like real intensity in our lives and our journeys to creating whatever we want, we will hit these sticky spots. And again, culturally, we will drink, we will watch TV, we will binge eat, these are just ways of avoidance or numbing or resisting these contracted moments. So what I do with my pregnant women is we start to, in their lives, so in preparation for birth, start to look at our patterns with our sticky spots and consciously bring pleasure in. What pleasure does is it creates flow. It creates physical flow in the body, blood flow, it creates energy flow, and it supports the physical birthing process, but it also supports the metaphorical birthing process, because when you're in that gnarly state of resistance, you're clamping down energetically, you're clamping down on all that you're creating. So really what this body of work is, it's the same work I've been doing for the past 10 years. Another level of it is like fears. I talked about how fears really are, up front and center in our birthing process. Well, that's true. If you're going to be writing a book for the first time, or an author, or going on a book tour, or, there's a lot of fear in that. It's new, it's big, you don't know what to expect. Yes, there's excitement, there's joy, just like when you're birthing a baby, but there's an element of fear. So repatterning and really examining fears in a way so that you can disarm them as opposed to be governed by them. Right. So this is the work that I'm doing. And I'm doing it for the first time really consciously with women at large. Anyone that is called to this work, is resonating with what I'm saying, and is creating things in their lives that they want to find a different way to do it. They're done with the no pain, no gain. They know that there's an easier way. They want to honor their feminine. They want to move from a place of their deepest truth, and they want to have fun doing it.
I love it. Gosh, I love it. I want to go back to something that you just said a moment ago when you were working with the Mama Gina tribe. Your talk, your work helped women reframe and heal from birth experiences like 15, 20 years past.
Yeah.
That's cool, Sheila.
Thank you.
That's really cool, yeah. Right? And so going forward, it's really, you're looking to bring in women who are birthing something other than a baby, that are, accessing their creative flow and are seeking support to create a more pleasurable life, to create a more pleasurable experience in their creative journey. Would you say that that's so?
That is so, yeah. That's exactly right.
So great. Wow.
I can just reflect on our work together, right? So I used to be the type of person that was like, I'm smart enough, I'm strong enough, I can do this by myself, and that's really the old paradigm, right? That's like the, you're stoic. It's a very masculine paradigm, and I'm not at all discounting masculine energy, because it's the integration of the masculine and the feminine that is the source of all creation. So, but just to say that was the place where I really lived. And you could see just even in my expression, it's not that much fun. It's not, yes, you can create from that space, and you can move forward, and you can use your grit and your strength, and you can get through it. It's not that much fun, right? And so when I work with you, and you're there to support me and doula me through those sticky moments, it's just like, when I was hitting transition, birthing my daughter, and I thought, in transition, everyone's like, oh, I can't do this anymore, right? And my doula came forward and put her face, right up against my face and said, Sheila, look in my eyes, breathe with me, exhale. She took me through to the other side. Now, would I have gotten through to the other side? Yeah, probably with some like gnarly yelling, screaming, whatever. But she took me, like she carried me through to the other side. And that's like, working with you is like that, when I get all like gnarly inside and you're there, I've got you, and you can reflect back to me, that what I've got is important and help me bring it out. It's just better. It's just pleasurable. It's more fun. And it just makes for an elevated experience throughout. So rather than like, oh, I did this and I'm strong and whatever, it's like, we did it together and it's fun and it's enjoyable. And so there are lots of like little principles like this that you can get from birth. And that's what I want to share with women wherever they are on their journeys, whether they're pregnant, whether they're a birth worker, or really whatever they're creating in their lives.
You know, and a piece that I just want to highlight that I think is so important is that what you're sharing here and what you're offering is to women is you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. Exactly. We're here to help each other. Yeah. You know, that's a big part of what does make it fun, in my opinion, you know, is we're here to do it together. We're here to help each other. Yeah. So you're there, you're offering this work for women to support them. You're like a pleasure midwife.
Ooh, I like it. Thank you. I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. And for those who don't know the meaning of midwife, it means with woman. So with woman, with pleasure. So beautiful. So you've got an event coming up soon. Do you want to say more about that, Sheila?
Yes. So I am hosting tonight a complimentary introduction to this work. I'm calling it The Ecstatic Goddess, an Introduction to the Feminine Cycle of Creation. So that's tonight at 8:30 Eastern Time, Tuesday. And I want to say this is a live event, so it's not like you're going to sign up and listen to the recording and then never get to it. Like, it will be interactive. Like, you will be doing stuff along the way. So if you can join me tonight, that is fantastic. And I've had a lot of women reach out from Europe, like, it's the middle of the night, or, you know, places where it's the work day for them. And so I will likely do an encore presentation this weekend. So I'm saying this, if you're watching this after Tuesday, you can still sign up. The link will be the same. So it's either tonight, Tuesday, January 22nd at 8:30, or, you know, this weekend. I'll figure out when.
Can you say the title again? Because that was a powerful title.
Oh, thank you. The Ecstatic Goddess, an Introduction to the Feminine Cycle of Creation.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to see what I'm doing this evening. What time is it Pacific Standard?
5:30.
5:30. Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, gosh, Sheila, thank you so much for being here with me today, and for your work, and for being on this wonderful journey of bringing more pleasure to women. It's so important. I bless you.
Oh, I bless you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for hosting me, for asking great questions and highlighting what I do. I appreciate it.
Yay. We'll do it again. All right. Have a great day.
All right. Lots of love.
Bye.